Hell yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend, the Doc, John Maakaron. John, what's going on, my man?
Here we go.
What's happening, fellas? What a day. Got to spend a little time at Comerica. Gentry's looking like Paul Skeens out there, trying to be maxing out there. Oh, man, it was a good day today, man. Got to see Scooble, got to see Skeens, got to see Verlin get unlocked. Man, it was a good day today. Now we're going to talk football. It's a good time. But before we get started, it's kind of very weird as you're sitting there at Comerica Park and then you hear the news of the day. I did not in my wildest dreams think that Isaiah Buggs would be affiliated with the hookah lounge. I think, Jeff, you can relate to that. Picturing me going up there and ordering a hookah from Isaiah Buggs and being like, hey, hit me with some tabbouleh and some hummus. That's kind of crazy. That story that broke, that went down, and you read more about it, man. That's crazy. And what's really crazy to me is that the two guys last year that I got closest to were Cam Sutton, who came on a podcast and just loved to talk, and Isaiah Buggs. Both guys that are in trouble with the law. So I attract, for whatever reason, the DOC attracts the troublemakers, and it's just a wild day. And so today I get to relax with you fellas, talk ball, talk OTAs, drinking some Modelo. And
oh yeah, Doc.
Baby, the cookies, man, gonna chow down because I'm hungry. And man, it's a good time this offseason. It's a good time. What up, chat? I'm loving everybody that's been debating with you boys earlier today.
John, I gotta run the. And by the way, Isaiah Buggs stuff is wild.
Crazy.
I saw that on my time. Booner put it out as well. And I didn't. Thankfully, he put it out because I wouldn't have known it happened. And then I saw John put it out, and I was like, wow, that's a whole nother thing. Bad culture guy confirmed. John, I gotta tell you my theory. All right, and just it's a very it's a more of a feeling. I don't have data. I don't have evidence. I'm not gonna go and put this out and give people and be a legitimate source. I don't have it, but here's my line of thinking if I'm Brad Holmes. All right, you're Brad Holmes. We think last year he didn't make a move at the deadline. A significant, DPJ was a move, but I'm talking a Montez Sweat, Chase Young. Some people wanted it, including myself. Didn't get done. I accepted it. I've moved on. Now I move that, and I kind of parlay that into this year, John, where there could potentially be a move this year. What do you think of the idea of a guy like Hassan Reddick? All right, who's on an expiring contract, plays in the AFC, of course, right now with the Jets. Jets got a lot of guys in that defensive line. It easily could go the other way, and he's a big part of their defensive line, and I get shut up, and they don't trade him, even though the contract's almost out. But what about the other side, John? Or maybe he's not happy, and the Jets are sitting there going, okay, well, if we're going to trade him, he's got a year left. Trade him to a team that is in the other conference. And I think the team that would be calling immediately would be the Detroit Lions. I think they would be the team that would pick up the phone and be like, hey, 1 year left. He gets to go against a team that he formerly played for in the Philadelphia Eagles and absolutely just wreak havoc. What are your thoughts on that theory? Is it stupid, John, or maybe I'm on to something a little bit here?
Well, I look at it and I say, what's your assumption that the Jets are going to be awful this year? I mean, don't you think Robert Saleh's loaded up? Don't you think that the Jets are in win now mode? I think that you recognize what's going on with the New York Jets and how hungry and desperate they are. I was a proponent of bringing Robert Saleh here. That defense is sick. I think Hassan Reddick's going to love it there. So I understand your theory. You want to add, and it's going to be something where the biggest question mark is, who's going to be the individual that's going to complement Aiden Hutchinson? Who's going to step up? Well, right now, the Lions have several candidates vying for that job. And I think that in terms of additions, when you look at it, I think if Brad Holmes makes a move at the deadline, I think that it's going to be on offense. And you want to shore up something that just the way the game's going. So to me, you guys, thank you guys. You tipped me off to the scout talking, and what a beautiful interview that he gave. And he said, look, we still got a lot of love for James Houston, outside linebacker that's expected to shine and do some things. Maybe he can replicate 8 sacks. You got Marcus Davenport that is expected to potentially stay healthy and contribute at a high level. Hopefully does more than he did with the Vikings. Then you have the rookie, Mekhi Wingo, that later on in the year, you move them outside. You can do a lot of different things at different spots along the defensive line. That's 3 guys right there, along with Ali McNeil, who's going to be probably the biggest beneficiary of having DJ Reader play next to him. So there's a lot of opportunities for guys to prove themselves. And I think this defensive line, don't discount Terrell Williams. The coaching staff is just raving about this new defensive line coach. He's experienced. Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn said, look, this dude's the best in the league. And he's not John Scott Jr. He's not a rookie. He's not some guy that's coming in. He's going to demand greatness. And I think this defensive line is going to be a spot where I think that you can count on them. Biggest question mark on defense, I think, is going to be the cornerbacks and that safety. And then on offense, you got to see if the wide receivers do emerge. So if you make a move, look, Hassan Reddick's a great name, but you can't look at what the Jets and Saleh do on defense and say that a guy that is going to probably shine in that scheme is probably not going to want to come to Detroit. I think that Detroit kind of is a situation in which draft and develop, and in free agency, I think that it's going to be interesting to see if Brad Holmes pulls the trigger on making some moves, but I don't see it. I think that your theory is going to be debunked.
So instead of onto something, I'm just simply on something. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly.
I like that. I like that saying a lot better, Jeff. That makes a lot more. I still want the homework done tomorrow. Doc, though, I want to ask you this. You brought up the James Houston thing, and it's interesting to me that we talked about Davenport and the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, and like, are we able to trust them this year? I want to specifically, though, ask you about James Houston. I know last week, OTAs on Thursday, you were there. What is, like, for you, one, what's the expectation that you're looking to James Houston this season? And where do you think what do you think he does this year for the Lions? And then 2, what did he look like at OTAs? And was there any conversation? I didn't see much about James Houston personally, but was there any conversation in Allen Park of James Houston coming back from that injury and kind of taking that next step here, coming into that third year?
Yeah, it's so crazy, boys. Let me tell you, there's so many rules, and I try to be a guy, that tries to follow them all. So there's so many rules on reporting injuries and what you see and not see. I'm confused as all hell. So I'm walking in usually about half hour early. So I'm, clearing the cobwebs, trying to get there on time. And I'm walking in, and who's walking out? It's James Houston. So I'm looking right at him. He's looking right at me, and he's walking out. So I'm like, he ain't going to be practicing. But I'm not sure. Can I report that? Not report that I saw him? So I clearly knew he wasn't there. I reported that he wasn't on the list of those that Dan Campbell said in my takeaways piece, which you can find every Thursday when I go out there, observations. He wasn't there. So he left, and I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe we'll find out more as to his participation. I expect more participation. You guys saw some pictures. Sam Laporta's back. I'm excited to hopefully see Terrion Arnold. I was a little bit shocked to hear that he didn't get into too many practices last week. I don't know if it's contract related, but it's real interesting that Arnold and Rakestraw were kind of limited. And Dan Campbell just walked up there and gave a list of 17 names, and it was wild, but helps a little bit in the count. But James Houston, I expect to have a rebound year. I think 8 sacks is the floor. And if he shines, I think he's going to want to prove himself. I think he's going to compete hard to be that guy. He's the scout on that podcast said that James Houston was the favorite player that he drafted. And why not? You scout someone from Jackson State and, a school that's not known for football prowess, and you get a guy that comes in rookie year and gets 8 sacks. That's awesome. Unfortunately, last year was derailed by an injury, but I expect him to shine and want to compete at a high level. I hope he's out there. And like I said, at this point in time, sometimes I am of the opinion you should ask for forgiveness instead of permission, but I have no way to know what kind of legs I stand on, being this is my 6th year there. So I saw him leave. He wasn't there. He didn't practice. So hopefully this week, tomorrow, we get a chance to see him do stuff. But, guys, you guys know that it's tough because in terms of practice without pads, defensive lineman, you can look at technique and stuff like that, but you're not going to get a whole lot of assessment right now. Next week will be great at minicamp.
Shout out to Dan for not giving anything away, just going, these are the players, don't ask questions about injuries or contracts. That's an interesting tactic. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it is. It's jarring because we're all just kind of looking forward to seeing Dan after a little break, and that's what he did. He just started naming off names. It was kind of funny, but people still followed up about Branch and others as well. You can ask about any player, and he'll decide kind of which way to describe it. And Dan's great. He's typically an honest and blunt individual, but some cases he'll just say, I'm not going to answer that. So, the question I asked was about Tyrion Arnold, and he said, look, Tyrion last week just did drills individually. He did not get out there and compete at the highest level. So that was great, actually, because we got to see Carlton Davis. I was shocked. Like, you almost forget sometimes that, hey, this is a veteran that had success that the Lions traded for. The dude was locked up, and there was a rep, man. It was unbelievable. It was great. He locked up on Jamo, and he just had the positioning. Jamo tried to get inside, and he couldn't. Carlton Davis locked it down, and he had himself a great day. And when you get a guy that's a cornerback that's like, I'm here to lock shit down, and I'm going to make Jamo better, it was great to see his swagger and confidence. And I walked away. My biggest impression was Carlton Davis is the truth. Carlton Davis is the truth, and I hope he stays healthy and lives up to what he can do for that defense.
And Doc, that's actually what I was going to ask you about a little bit. You brought up Jamo. Dan has said some great things of him. How's that Goff to Jamo connection going? And obviously, what are your expectations for Jamo moving forward? And have those expectations gotten bigger since coach has kind of shown some confidence in him?
Yeah, no doubt. Real fast, James. How can you say James Houston will be mid? I think that he had 8 sacks. I think that's really kind of tough to say that this is a guy that is going to have an opportunity to get out there and prove the coach is wrong. So that's a tough
That
statement.
might be James Houston right there.
Yeah, James. That might be James's family, right? Look, man, defense I thought was great. Now on offense, man, it was crazy in that the talk beforehand, Dan Campbell's just, and it's guys, look, Dan Campbell is in a position to use his words to hype up people. And I don't think that he was blowing smoke up anybody's, but I think that he was being honest because Jameson Williams looks like he's running crisper routes. He's definitely stronger. He's got the right attitude in terms of wanting to be the best ever, but it's still a work in progress and he's not a finished product. And until we see it, it's all hope and hype in regards to this football player. And look, you got a guy clearly that has all the intangibles, that he's a speedster. He's got size, speed. He's got the ability to really get open and take advantage of weaknesses in opposing defenses. And I think he can do it all. But until he consistently does it, he's got to go out there and improve it. He had a chance. He had a chance to make the highlight catch. Jared Goff dropped a dime into his hands. It was a beautiful deep pass, and he didn't make the play. And he was pissed because we're all looking at it. All the media was staring right at him. And he dropped it. He got pissed, and he really wanted to make the play. But other than that, he was running crisp routes. He's doing his thing. I think that right now, in terms of the chemistry with Jared Goff, it's tough to say because you clearly know that Laporta and St. Brown have it at the highest level. But I think as camp moves along, as more targets are set for Jameson Williams, as they get where they need to go in terms of reps, I think it'll get there. Is it there now? No. Do you guys find it interesting that all the, Jared Goff's at Comerica Park and, I know St. Brown's not there, but, one of these pictures would be nice if Jamo was there with him, hanging out with him a little bit, picking his brain. What's he doing? You should hang out with his quarterback. You don't kind of see that in terms of away from the football field. Maybe are they going to be best friends? Maybe not, but they need to have a professional working relationship. And it's the best way to put it. It's a work in progress. But when you see what he brings to the table, where he's at today versus where he's going to be at in September, he's going to be vastly improved. I think that when the lights are on, so there's going to be guys that you may see in practice drop the ball. You might see a video from the doc on Twitter of him fumbling the ball, not being exactly where he needs to be in the time frame I have to shoot the video. But I think he's one of those guys that may not shine in practice, but when the lights are on and it's go time, I think that the chance is there for him to compete at the highest level and make big plays for this football team. I'm confident. I think that he can do it. But right now, I just don't think in practice you get to see the full makeup of what Jameson Williams can be. It'd be nice to see in practice, but I think that when the game's on, when you see that first game Sunday night, he's going to deliver, and he's going to deliver big on the big stage on Sunday Night Football.
I mean, we're talking about practice, Doc.
Practice.
Go ahead.
Practice. And like I said, the most jarring comment I've heard in 3 years is you typically don't see a coach come out and say, look, this guy's not going to have the best hands ever. And you're just like, whoa, I think everybody was kind of like, well, yeah, we've kind of seen that for 2 years, but we've never heard a coach just come out and say, look, he just doesn't have great hands, and he may never have great hands, but he may be somebody that just is somebody that takes advantage of the skills that he has. And eventually when the time comes and it's an interesting situation in regards to this talent. And guys, pay attention too, because he's eligible for a 5th-year option. And if he doesn't have the season that maybe he's supposed to have, he might be one of those guys that the fifth-year option is declined. You never know.
Yeah, that would be something to see. But you're just talking about Carlton Davis before that, Doc, and something that I was thinking about going into today's show. I was just had an epiphany about it. With Carlton Davis, now you had Amik Robertson, and now you have the safety room that just got better, obviously, with Brian Branch. I think he's going to could be an all-pro step. Who do you think leads the secondary in interceptions this year?
That's a great question. I can't wait to see actually Terry Arnold. Does the ball find him? Is he a ball hawk? You see the safeties, have a chance at high production. Kirby always as well. But in terms of the safeties, or in terms of the cornerbacks, I think, Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson might find their way around the football. But to me, I wonder how Brian Branch does his second year after the injury. Does he take not being listed as a top 25 player as a slight? Does he, want to make? I have the feeling Brian Branch as well is poised for a breakout year in regards to just being around the football. If he stays healthy, he kind of was nicked up throughout the course of the year. So I can't wait to see what Brian Branch does year two. So I think it's probably going to be Carlton Davis or Brian Branch being around that football. It's going to be great to see. But if Terry Arnold sneaks in there and has like that progression throughout the year where he maybe starts off the first half of the year not making a lot of noise, but then in the second half, I think once he gets that first one, man, they're going to come in bunches. And I just think the opportunities for interceptions are going to be there from this defense, and it's going to be so good to see. And it was, like I said, great to see a cornerback lock down a top receiver and do it quite well. Actually, it was really cool to see.
And kind of staying on the secondary, two players that I don't think get talked about enough, at least here on our channel in general, just in general, because of who they've added. And, with Terran Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, and you have Carlton Davis, who's been impressing. But I see this, and by the way, thank you for the $2, but 501st Legion. What about Emmanuel Mosley, his injury update, and just kind of what he's been doing? And also Amik Robertson, who I don't think really has been getting talked about a lot, but just someone that I'm excited to see this season. I think he can compete for a starting spot. What about those two guys?
Yeah, Emmanuel was out there, but not in the team drills. He was doing kind of some shadow reps, and he's out there, but I don't think that they're going to rush him back in any capacity. I would expect him to, maybe we'll get an update on his progress tomorrow, but I don't think you'll see him maybe too much at minicamp. I think you'll probably see him go, because you look, even if he is ready now, the Lions are extremely cautious with how they bring back guys. They just don't throw them out there. So I think that Emmanuel Mosley is out there. He's part of everything. He's always in the mix, but he's not participating in drills. And Amik Robertson is interesting because he's going to give you options. I think that he's going to provide matchup situations where you can put him in the slot, different situations where maybe you can put him on the outside. But I think that, for him, it's going to be more of a reserve role because the three best are going to be Carlton Davis, Terry Arnold, and Brian Branch. And if everybody stays healthy, Kirby Joseph and Fatu Melifonwu. So there's different situations where you can put Amik Robertson out there. I think he's there for competition, there to help the other defensive backs as well, help a Rakestraw kind of get acclimated as well into the compete level. And I just think a guy like that, when you see his compete level very high and he's got the swagger, I hope we get a chance to talk to him. We talked to a lot of individuals last week, but not a lot of vets as they cleared out. So maybe Robertson will be somebody you pull aside, and maybe I'll have an opportunity to talk to him tomorrow. But it'll be interesting to see, kind of get his sense of the position. And look, he's known as a gamer. He's known as a guy that competes at the highest level. It's got the most out of his opportunity. He's my height and he's so athletic and he can close up shop. You know what I mean? He's got good closing speed and he can compete at the highest level. But, clearly he's undersized and it's a tough situation. But I think that when he's given the opportunity, he's got one of those mindsets that the Lions love. Lot to prove, gritty, and is a gamer. And I think you'll see him on the side of some breakups and doing some things for this defense to help Aaron Glenn out there. And I think, too, having Aaron Glenn and Deshae Townsend, I think is going to be great for the defensive backs as they work together to fix that secondary.
Hey, Doc, two-part question here, and I'm just staying on the defensive side of the ball. You guys did speak with Jack Campbell, and we watched that, and we brought it up on our show last week as well, last Friday or Thursday night. And he seemed like he's as a guy that's only in year 2 now, coming off his rookie year. It already seems like he is just that much more like mature and taking that step to where he kind of knows what he needs to do to be that elite linebacker. Does you get that feeling when you're at OTAs that he's about to take that next year or two jump? Because that's my breakout player this year. When we did our breakout players, I had Jack Campbell taking a big step and actually passing up outside of the captain role, passing up Anzalone when it comes to tackles and skill set and what he brings to the table and potential Pro Bowl year. Do you see that happening? And then actually, I'll just leave it at that. I'll save my other question.
Yeah, Jack's the man. He's got that attitude that you love. You could tell he felt the loss to the 49ers. He felt the plays he didn't make, and the 49ers coming back, he took accountability for it, said, hey, I wasn't part of the solution. And man, if he can kind of take over that Mike spot, oh my goodness, I think that you got the strong Mike linebacker that can be a physical force running downhill, strong tackler. I think he's going to emerge as the defensive leader sooner rather than later. Maybe not this year when you still have Anzalone, who'll probably still wear the green dot, but I think that you're going to see a lot more of probably Jack Campbell, not so much rushing from the outside that he did last year. I think they were testing it out and seeing what he can accomplish, but his natural position, Mike linebacker, I think he's going to be dominant. I think eventually speaking, you see a guy that is just physically enormous. And I think that he's a guy that's so strong physically, mentally strong, and he's got the attitude of, hey, I let my football team down and I got my first taste of success. I don't want to let it down. And this defense has that swagger in regards to, hey, we're going to be around the football. And you saw too at OTAs, the defense won the day. They were knocking the football down. Lee McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, they were flying around. They were competing at a high level, and they've heard all the noise about the offense being, the shit and being all, number 1 ranked and number 2 ranked and the greatest things since sliced bread. So they hear that. And I think that for a guy like Jack Campbell, the ability that he's going to bring for this defense and the swagger, oh my goodness, I can't wait to see it in year 2 and mini camp around the corner. When they put the pads on at training camp, I think it's going to be great because he's going to be one of the first guys that's going to love to be hitting and competing at a high level.
Yeah, and Doc, I know we talked about the wide receivers a little bit already, and Cleef is obviously battling back from an injury and whatnot, but we want a little update on DPJ and Antoine Green. How are those guys fitting in?
You think Khalif Raymond and Antoine Green?
No, yeah. I said DPJ and Antoine Green.
DPJ, Antoine Green. Yeah, the wide receivers are an interesting group. I thought that DPJ is looking fluid, looking like an individual that is, going to be more involved in this offense. And you recognize a player that just was thrown into the mix and didn't get a lot of targets. I think he's going to have a good year. Antoine Green, it was great. If you do pay attention to the video conferences, I was the one that asked Jameson Williams, tell me what you think about Antoine Green. And he said, man, you know what? He's picking things up faster than even I did. And he just raved about what Antoine Green did. And you could tell that Antoine Green put in the work. He understands routes, a little bit more fluid. And in year 2, guys, things just, you're not thinking so much. And you recognize too that football in regards to practice, they just dump a bunch on you and you got to figure it out. We saw Antoine Green getting yelled at for lining up improperly, trying to figure things out, trying to figure out where he was responsible to go. And there's a lot of things that a wide receiver has to understand in this scheme in regards to, hey, if you see the safety pulling down or pulling back up, then it requires your route to do this. And if you mess that up, it messes up the timing with Jared Goff. It's a very timing-based offense. And if Antoine Green, you recognize kind of why maybe he didn't see the field all that much, because this is a precise offense and there's no room for those that are learning. Now in year 2, Antoine Green, I think, is going to shine, have an opportunity in training camp to get a lot of reps. And for young players, that's the key. Get a lot of reps, get the chemistry down with Jared Goff. I expect big things. And I think that when you hear the praise from Jameson Williams, he said, hey, Antoine Green has learned faster than I did at certain spots. And I think that you see it out there on the field. He's going to be confident. And I think that, given his opportunity, once he makes a couple plays, I think there's going to be some great things ahead for Antoine Green. And hopefully he can be that player that kind of is that unsung hero that not a lot of people talk about. But when they discover it, man, I think he has a chance.
Yeah, and a guy that Antoine's going to be having a good chemistry with, just because he's not going to be in the starting lineup, but he's going to be reps with the 2s, is Hendon Hooker, Doc. What's the update on Hendon Hooker?
All right. Chat, calm down.
Buckle up.
Buckle up. Calm down,
Here
chat.
we go.
Here we go. All right. And sometimes, too, you battle yourself when you're out there. Like, I'm there, and I'm seeing all the plays, and I'm like, the ball's kind of not where it needs to be. The ball's zipped to where it needs to go, but it's the receivers are battling, having to get it. He ain't missing, and cornerbacks are getting to it. I'm like, okay, is there something going on? What's the deal? He didn't look that great. He had a rough practice. And so I don't shy away from printing what I see. I just don't know. Like I said, in my mind, I didn't see a lot of great plays. I saw some zip passes, some things over underneath and over the middle that, okay, gave you signs. But here's the thing, guys. He's raw. And he ain't ready right now or probably by training camp to lead this football team. Should Jared Goff go down right now, you would say, oh, shit, we're in trouble. Okay, look, the scout said it, and he also looked at it, and he said the best thing right now for Hendon Hooker is Jared Goff. And what he meant by that is Hendon Hooker needs to continue to learn a lot of different things about dropping back, reading the defense, getting into the offense quickly. And Ben Johnson's offense is no joke. It is legit difficult. And the best thing for Hendon Hooker is to sit back and learn. Got excited. I was thinking, well, maybe he'll shine. And here's the thing. We always think what's the best. And sometimes we do got to calm down. I was thinking 2 weeks ago, man, if he just shines in the preseason, maybe someone goes down, you trade him off, and you just get some picks and you move forward. But in the end, he's the backup. He's the guy that's going to be developed as a quarterback. He's a developmental quarterback. He ain't ready to lead this NFL team to wins just yet. He's got all training camp. He's got time on task to figure this stuff out. He's got a lot to learn. But the best thing for Hendon Hooker in his career is to learn from Jared Goff. And Jared Goff's got all the confidence in the world now. No trade clause, all the money in the world. Hendon Hooker ain't seeing the field unless there's a catastrophe in 24 and in 25. So if you're Hendon Hooker, you're getting the Aaron Rodgers treatment where you're not going to see the field for 2-3 years. And so the best thing for him is time on task, learn, make mistakes. He's raw. He ain't getting traded. As much as I love to write that kind of shit, he ain't getting traded. And even if he does shine in the postseason, people were nudging me saying, look, the NFL likes what people do in the preseason, but that's not enough for most competent GMs to make a deal. But guys, here's why you can always talk about it. There's always that one clown GM that's out there that may see progress in the preseason and make an offer. So you always got to remember there's 32 GMs. Most of them are average, and there's some that are below average. So, you always kind of think, well, if Hooker shines and throws 4 touchdowns against bums, maybe a quarterback goes down and someone takes a chance. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Is it likely? No, because the Lions have made an investment in this guy to develop him in their style. So Hendon's the backup. And right now on my DOC depth chart, hate to say it, don't get mad. It's Goff, it's Sudfeld, and it's Hooker. He's got.
I knew Jeff was going to.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that way forever. But guys, you have to assess what you see. Hendon Hooker did not throw the ball well. He had accuracy issues, and the situation in which you look at it, a veteran. Look, in the end, Sudfeld and Hooker, if they're out there on the field in week 2, the Lions are fucked anyway. So you got to develop them in a good spot. And I think the Lions count on veterans more than a raw developmental quarterback. And the scout said it. He just needs to hit the classroom, understand and learn from Jared Goff, and recognize, too, he ain't battling Goff for nothing. And if you call for Hendon Hooker, I can't say that. This year, I probably will not call for Hendon Hooker to play this year. If you do, then you realize I drank way too many of these, and I'm just talking shit out my ass. You can put this down. I cannot call for Hendon Hooker to play over Jared Goff no matter what happens. Goff's mastery of that offense. Guys, I implore you, if you think I'm just blowing smoke, go pay attention to Dan Orlovsky and David Carr. Find their post where they opened up a playbook and looked through it and pay attention. They went through it and looked at the concepts, looked at the application of the concept. My head was spinning. I was trying to recite these plays. I couldn't get through 3 words. I was like, oh my God, I can't, like, there's formation, there's this, there's that, and they're expected to pick this up like now. So go through and see how difficult it is. It gives you an appreciation how difficult it is. And Ben Johnson ain't messing around. And Dan Campbell said it. We're level 401 now. We're 4th year into this with this program. So Jared Goff is literally 3 to 4 years developmentally in this scheme ahead of Hendon Hooker. So, guys, he's raw. Be patient. Let him develop. Don't call for him to play, because I think, though, if you ask me right now, who's the best backup quarterback that in a couple years has the best chance to succeed in the entire league, it's Hendon Hooker. He's going to be sitting behind Jared Goff for 2-3 years, learning how a quarterback runs a sophisticated offense at a high level, that when he's out there, if it's with the Lions or if it's with somebody else, look for Hendon Hooker in 27 or 28, not right now.
You know what, Doc? We do love you.
I'm preaching.
Right.
I'm preaching the facts.
He's letting you know.
The dude tells her how it is.
He did not. No, look at me. He just drank. He drank
He
them.
tells her how it is.
What it is.
You know what, Doc? You are right. I may not.
I'm right.
I may
You
not
can't,
like.
you can't say that he's. You can't. What are you going to say? You're going to say that Hooker's going to go out there and run the offense better than Jared Goff? I would be crazy. That would be one of the all-time shocks in the history of the NFL if he goes out there week 2 if something happens and ends up being like Tom Brady. I would be floored. And
I won't go that far. I didn't like the Nate Sudfeld thing, all right? Because man, just think. But you're all right. If Jared goes down, you're fucked either way. So like, yeah.
Look,
there were a lot of people.
In the end, you hope neither the guy, the two guys that are behind the quarterback, they're responsible for looking at film, looking at tendencies, looking at scout team situations. So if Hendon Hooker evolves throughout the preseason and he's the eventual backup, that's great. But I did think that if he's out there, right now, you got to remember too, Sudfeld's got the experience. He also is close with Jared Goff, and you always lean toward experience on these depth charts. You have to lean toward experience at this time, right now in OTAs. That could and Hooker as the backup right now. In the end, between 2 and 3 right now, it doesn't mean anything. Jared Goff is QB1, and he's going to be that way for a long time.
It's crazy, Doc. There were a lot of people, and maybe they were on our show or maybe they weren't, that talked about Hendon Hooker potentially taking serious snaps for the Lions in 2024 without even seeing him play a snap of football in the NFL. I mean, it's a crazy thing. When the Jared Goff contracts came up, and Adam Schefter put out there and said the deal wasn't even close.
That is a
people
lie.
Were like, "Oh, it's going to be interesting to see training camp."
Nope.
Going to be really interesting. We might see a Hendon Hooker sighting that in 2020. It's just a really crazy.
What are you talking about, Tim? 20 minutes?
Listen, guys. Listen, we're all
really
dreamers.
Crazy.
We all want to see individuals come in and compete. It would be wild if at OTAs Hooker was just zinging the ball all over the place, accurate, ran the offense. The best thing for a guy like me would be a quarterback controversy. The best thing would be to have a legitimate conversation. But I think that it's just tough at the highest level. And these quarterbacks, based on the shotgun offense that he ran at Tennessee, this offense is completely different. It needs a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts. Yeah. But remember, too, Hendon Hooker is a guy that's very wise, very mature, very studious, and he's coming back from an injury. I don't think that the gap that he has in terms of where he needs to be, if he's not there yet, by the time pads come on in training camp and the opportunities are there to compete at the highest level, I think that you're going to see some progress and growth. And that's all you can ask for is get better, have better performances, develop chemistry, and learn from your mistakes. But it's tough because we do want the best job that people love here in Detroit is the backup goalie and the backup quarterback here in Detroit. We just want to throw them out there. And since when have we seen a backup quarterback in Detroit just come in, light it up, steal someone's job, and end up being a legend? So that's how it goes.
I want to be very clear. I don't want this narrative to spread. I never said he'd play this year. Actually, we talked about Tim Twentyman's article where he said, could there be an opportunity for him to play snaps in like the red zone? And I didn't even like that, to be honest. I think that was I love Tim Twentyman though. It's all due respect, but I did not like that. But I get what you're saying, Doc. I mean, he was thrown in the deep end. So, we're going to see in training camp, you'll get probably more of a better picture there. Let's get to member mailbag. We got some questions for you if you got some time. So people are they were sending them through. So we'll start with Michael. Shout out to Michael, by the way. He actually put us on to the interview with the scout, which people ended up loving. So shout out to him. He says, I wonder if the doc agrees with his fellow writer and thinks the Lions should target Quintez. Shout out to Christian, by the way. Should target Quintez Cephas, Corey Davis, and Michael Thomas.
Yeah, Christian's great, man. That guy loves the free agents. He loves writing those kind of things, looking at new guys. Look, Quintez Cephas, man, he just had a hard time staying healthy. So I would pass on him. Corey Davis, always interesting, the tie here locally, but I think the guy that is always intriguing too is Michael Thomas. I just don't think they're going to go externally. Christian's interesting in regards to looking at individuals that could come here to Detroit. At wide receiver, it's always tough. I know the names people want out there. I just think free agency right now, they're set. They got a lot of guys. And you also look at Smith, who's on the roster. You look at the individuals that have an opportunity that are undrafted free agents. There's a lot of competition. I just don't think there's room. Quinte Cephas wasted his opportunity here in Detroit. He had a highlight catch once in training camp, and that's about it. And then Corey Davis and Michael Thomas, I just think that you got enough with Antoine Green and Khalif Raymond and the tight ends on the roster. You don't need right now more wide receivers. Maybe down the road, but right now you're pretty good at wide receiver. Let it play out.
I was giving Klotz some shit, even though that's not what he was basing his Quintez Cephas thing on. It was more about depth, but I was giving him shit. I'm like, Lucas, you have in your head the catch, and he's like, no, I don't. I don't.
One play Cephas.
No way. He had a great primetime game against the Packers. He made crucial catches against the Cowboys, and I think when you have that, your wide receiver 6, that's fine.
Yeah.
I love it.
You guys love your old Lions, man. Let it go. He was let go. Let it go. Let it go. If he comes back, I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked.
I would be back. Keith, though,
he stays healthy too, doesn't he, Doc?
I do agree with Keith those questions. Doc asked Lions management to get mics for the people in the press conference. You need a mic, Doc. You need a mic, Doc.
Let me tell you, I love that because I do from time to time go back and read the funniest shit that you'll see is if you watch the YouTube, the comments that roll when these questions are asked, they're like, I can't hear. This is crazy. What is this? Why can't I hear any of the questions? Well, here's the thing. You guys don't need a mic because two guys are dominating the media. It's Dave Burkett and Justin Rogers. They ask a lot of questions. So it's 50-50. And then I try to get my one in there that's reasonable after them because, man, there's literally 30 people in there. You're trying to time it. It's always interesting, too, because I have a list of questions. And right away, Justin Rogers and Dave Burkett, they go through and they follow up and they get through 4 or 5 of my things. And then I just start scrambling to think of things that maybe someone thinks about or I'm thinking about as well. So, more and more I have been jumping in there, asking relevant questions, but those guys dominate the question. So it's either one of those two. And for the most part, I mean, is it really hard to surmise what the question is when the guy answers it? He kind of says, oh, I'm thinking about, Terry and Arnold and what he's doing. You can kind of piece together what is being asked by what is the response by Dan Campbell. They're pretty thorough in regards to a lot of the questions. So, listen, you guys are funny. A lot of the questions aren't stupid. They're relevant. A lot of them are, I would say dull, but I want to use the word, they're seeking football knowledge on a deeper level. They're not as exciting as some of the things you guys would ask. And in the end, guys, okay, and here's the thing you learned. Yes, there's a lot of great questions you could ask, but these guys are so well trained that they knew how to answer it. Like, you don't think Dan Campbell knew the Super Bowl or bust question was coming? He knew what was coming and he knew how to answer it. So, in the end, the questions that people want to ask, the true questions that are intriguing, and they'll punt it away and give the standard answer. And these guys do a good job trying to elicit information. And here's the thing, open forum to anybody in the chat. If there is a question that you're just desperate and dying to hear about, message Jeff, message Booner, Lukas, Gentry, or message me at Detroit Podcast. I'm the individual most likely to ask it. So at Detroit Podcast, hit me up, say, Doc, I need you. I'm desperate. I need you to ask this. And just maybe I'm the guy that will ask it. The voice of the people here, the DOC.
The DOC,
baby.
I'll ask it. I have no problem.
The DOC.
Yeah, Dan is good at He's like Floyd Mayweather, dodging questions.
Dodging questions. No, these guys are trained. Great. Look, these guys are trained very well how to answer questions. And, you guys are, Alan, I question your question there in the comment. I don't know if I could say those kind of questions without laughing hysterically. Just guess 10. Just guess 10.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Just guess. If you're thinking it, just guess.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be the biggest? Listen, honestly, if I asked it and he said, "Oh, it's average 5 inches," you'd be all disappointed. So he should lie and just be like, 10 to 12, on a good day,
On a good day.
swinging for the fences.
Hey, judging by the dog he owns. I don't know that dog. Little
I don't think bust. I think Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, next question. Stephen David asked, Doc, what's your observations on Ben Johnson? He's always more quiet than other assistants, it seems, and never in front of the camera. What's he like out there this year? Anything different?
Yeah. Let me say this, guys. Remember, too, with Ben Johnson, he was brought here by Matt Patricia. Probably one of the only good things he did was bringing in a coach that has this tough exterior. Now, look, too, when you saw the polls last year, Aaron Glenn was the most relatable. The players like him. Ben Johnson, I think, is the most prototypical coach that you would see, where it's equal parts love and hate, because he is a perfectionist. I love his style. Ben Johnson's the kind of guy where if you get 4 yards on an out and you're supposed to be at 3.5, he's pissed. He ain't happy. He is demonstrative. He is somebody that is at the highest level of this game. And I love his attitude. Like, he ain't happy when you're just out there shining. He wants you to excel, repeat it, do it well. And he coaches these guys hard. And I mean hard. Like, he is yelling, he is upset. And guys, you could see it during practice. There are some periods of time in practice where the things look shitty out there, where they're having a hard time lining up. They're not timed correctly. I remember specifically last year where we got a chance to see Ben Johnson up close during a team period. And the offense was just getting, and Aaron Glenn shit talks. Like, he's out there whispering in Ben Johnson's ear, "That's the kind of shit you're calling against me? What the fuck are you doing?" And Ben Johnson ain't having that. He doesn't like that. He's precise. His offense is predicated on exactly being where you need to be. It's very precise, and it involves timing, rhythm, and he tailored an offense to fit the quarterback that he has. Ben Johnson, it's tough because I think he's got the potential, if he's got the right GM, to be a coach that succeeds at the highest level, win Super Bowls. But at the same token, he could also wear out a lot of players. As a head coach, you got to kind of have that softer edge at times. And I think as a coordinator, it gives you that opportunity to let it rip and yell at people and get your point across demonstratively. But at the same token, there are times where he's very funny and very personable. And I think that the other side of the coin, Ben Johnson, is one of those guys where we're trying to get him to laugh and tell jokes, but you can tell at certain points he's got that Belichick style of, I just want to coach offense. I just want to score a lot of points. And, to me, I don't think he is talking tomorrow. And I know people want to know, well, aren't you going to fix the third quarter woes? You got to ask that a lot last year, and they got to figure it out. And he just is one of those guys that at times is elaborate, but at times can pump questions. I think he's one of the great ones out there, a great coach in waiting. But at the same token, I just think he's in the wrong era. If he was in the 90s and the early 2000s, when the players could handle coaches like that, it's real interesting that his name was off the list completely and wasn't considered one of the favorite assistant coaches. To me, he's one of the best, and I love his attitude. I love coaches like that. I don't need, because that's how I would want to be coached. I don't need you to blow smoke. I'm already confident enough. I don't need you to tell me how great I am. I just need you to tell me how to get better and what I need to do. And I would be a perfect model football player in terms of get to work, handle business, and you can chew me out all you want. I don't care. I just want to be able to help a football team win. And that's how Ben Johnson is. He's no joke. He is not effing around in that practice field, and it's great to see.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out. Answer 14 became a member for 4 months, and he says, "Mac Daddy laying it down. Good evening, my crunch dudes." Well, we appreciate you. Answer 14. Thank you for that. Pennywise, guys. He donated $5 earlier. Says JMO seems like a guy who depended on his physical abilities rather than technique, so he was just better than everyone until now. I don't know how you feel about that, John, whether you agree with that or not.
Yeah. I love the fact that you guys give money during this segment. Give money to these boys. They're working hard. They bring on the best guests. They're putting on the best show. Drop $1, drop a couple bucks, show appreciation. They'll answer it. That's what the super chats are about. They'll read the question, say whatever you want. Good things, bad things about me. It's all good. We can handle it.
Love you, Doc.
Yeah, this chat might type some very interesting type things in the future.
Oh, yeah, I've got a couple things.
Yeah, very interesting things that you guys have on your mind. But look, yeah, guys, again, remember too that at this level, at collegiately, you can rely on your skills where you're that much better. A 5-star guy going up against, the likes of App State. Alabama would schedule, a handful of games that were not going to be competitive. But once they got into the SEC, it got serious. But at the next level, everybody's a 5-star. Everybody's a 6-star. So you don't think that the cornerbacks of the Vikings, they give a shit about JMO? They don't. They don't give a shit. They just believe that, hey, we can do our thing and play zone or play a spot where we can get him out of his rhythm, hit him, and see what he does. So at this level, it's about studying. It's about being precise, time on task. It's about the worst thing that happened to JMO was the suspension, being away from the team. It was tough, because it just kind of halts your development. And being injured that first year, he was in the classroom, and that's mental work. But at the same token, he's missed a lot of time. So truly speaking, he's still a relatively young football player. So now he understands that there's a physical side of the game where he's got to be in the best shape possible. And there's a mental side where he's got to know exactly what each route concept is supposed to look like, and then to go out there and execute it. And guys, it just takes time. And I know we all love it. I love it. I'd love to see a guy just come in like a Sam Laporta and dominate. But guys, you know how rare that is. That's why it's great to admire a guy like Sam Laporta who did what he did. But that's an outlier. That's not, we all love it. We all love to see it. I love to see it. And I know we sometimes maybe judge players based on how fast they acclimate, but the Lions have kind of been in one of those molds where they understand that it takes time. And Brad Holmes, if you go back and listen to what he said these guys are developing, and draft and develop. And in this season, this is where some of the development will shine and come through. So I know NFL not for long, but the Lions are bucking that trend a little bit with a lot of players that they're developing and expecting things from in year 2 and 3, as opposed to year 1.
Last question for you, Doc. And this is something we talk about a lot on this show. Alan W says, real question for Doc. Do you think AG's job is in jeopardy this season? A lot of fans seem to think so. Is it make or break for AG, Doc?
Ooh, that's a good question, Alan. I love the real questions that get put up here. And look, everyone knows Aaron Glenn is very close to Dan Campbell, but it's a production-based business. And yes, AG's job is in jeopardy. And he would admit that freely. Every year is an audition to keep your job. And clearly, there was a recognition that he didn't have the tools needed to get the job done. And now they've given him the tools. You got edge rushers. You got Aiden Hutchinson. You got veteran defensive backs. You got a couple young defensive backs. You have some experience at the safety spot. Now there's an opportunity for him to deploy everything that he needs. You got veterans at linebacker. You have everything you need. Now, here's the tough part in regards to Aaron Glenn. I think that the level of adjustment that you saw in game maybe can be improved. I thought that going into games, his schemes were pretty good. Against the run, one of the best. But when you saw the lack of adjustments last year, and I know part of it was due to the fact you didn't have enough talent, but at the same token, they gave up far too many yards, far too many cushions in key moments where you're like, play man to man at this spot. When it's 3rd and 6 and you give a guy a 7-yard cushion, there is no doubt he's going to get open. And there were times in certain plays where you're just scratching your head going, why are they giving so much cushion? Why are they that scared? Well, partly was they were able to clamp down. It was a bend, don't break defense. But in the end, I thought that the adjustments that he could have made could have produced a little bit more results in the season. And that might have been the difference against the Cowboys, or in a game that you lost in a situation in which you needed to be that number 1 seed or a higher seed to advance in the postseason. So absolutely, AG jobs is in jeopardy. They have enough talent defensively to do things. But look, here's what you're going to look for. You're going to look for the secondary to play at a much better level, to be in better positions at different spots, to match up better against the opponent. You're going to look for more pressure. And you're going to, and two, the big mistakes that the coaching staff made and whoever's in charge of it, John Scott Jr. and Dre Bly, were disasters. That was not what you needed at that time. You needed experience. And now they got it. So that team now is nearly flawless. There's no weaknesses in that coaching staff. There were flaws last year. And Isaiah Buggs kind of hinted at it. He didn't come out and say it, but he kind of said it to me that, hey, John Scott's kind of learning on the job here. And that's why some of the production along the defensive line wasn't where it needs to be. So I wrote about it in some way at All Lions. But AG, you got to step it up because Ben Johnson's going for the throat in competition day in, day out. And I think that's going to help AG in that defense, man. It's going to be great. I think they get to probably top 10, top, 9th through 14th in terms of a lot of these statistics. They make the jump. Have confidence. They make the jump this year. Yes.
I love that.
And he's a great guys. I'm telling you, Aaron Glenn, also great mindset, very wise beyond his years, can answer the questions honestly, openly, but he's a bad mofo, man. He wants to hurt people and he don't care. When the players told me in the locker room several times openly, what's your mantra? Their mantra, they looked at you and said violence. And you understood that was the case, but not a lot of people would say it. Aaron Glenn says it openly. We want to be violent. We want to hit you, put you down, bite your kneecaps off, stare at you in the face, smile, and go at it again. And I love it. That's the kind of thing I gravitate toward. That's why I've been so grumpy is I love defense. Bend don't break is the worst thing in the history of football. I want to be aggressive. And now that they got the guys to do it, maybe you'll see me smile more and write more nice things about the defense because they're going to play it in a way that can execute at the highest level. They're going to play violent and they're going to hurt people. Guys, look, Kirby Joseph fucked up a tight end. And so too bad, so sad. And I don't care what the rest of the league thinks about it. This is football. If you can't handle it, don't come and play because Detroit is not looking to play soft. They're looking to hit, pop the football loose, punch you in the mouth, smile at you in the face, and do a lot of things defensively. They want to be violent. And you guys get ready to see it. You're going to see a lot of good defense this year. And if it falls apart, AG will be gone.
Yeah, well said, Doc. We appreciate you. And also, we appreciate everyone who tuned in today. We look forward to talking with the Doc. Doc, I envision the regular season and having to talk with the Doc after a Lions win, hopefully week 1.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for it. We appreciate your time, John. You can check out John's stuff. Of course, All Lions. Link will be in the description. And you can check out his podcast. He's on like almost 600 episodes to give you some context here. Mr. Consistency. We're only trying to
legend.
Boys, to be fair, I think we're at 90. So, hey, we got a long way to go. We're on. Hey, we're coming, Doc. We are coming. Okay.
The Podfather, man.
Thank you, boys. Thank you,
The
guys.
Podfather, Mr. John Maakaron. John, we appreciate you. Thank you.
I look forward to it, guys. Thank you. See everybody next week. Let's go.
There it is.
Doc.
John Maakaron, the Doc.